A classic tale of resilience and endurance written by a guy who lived for adventure. It doesn't get any better than this. Hemingway's drunk stories are stuff of legend. Look them up if you're interested in that, but just look at the experiences he has had in his life. He truly embodies the quote of living life to its fullest. Imagine being a war correspondent, driving ambulances. Then imagine living in Cuba, Europe, and Italy also, if I remember correctly, and being part of that post war renaissance in writing in Europe at that time. His love for cigars and cigarettes is also well known. Truly a guy who saw the good, bad, and the ugly parts of life and lived each of them to its fullest and enjoyed every moment of it. It's sad the way he passed. Maybe that's what lack of purpose in old age does to you. Anyway, talking about Old Man and the Sea, the story comes from first hand experiences of Hemingway being a deep sea fisherman. So you can be assured that the techniques that Santiago uses and the life he lives are truly inspired from real life happenings, which only makes the story as much sweeter. Imagine how many tales there would be apart from this one, where we don't even hear about the struggles of these fishermen who go deep into the sea for days on end and still end up catching nothing. It must be a tough life. And a part of that is also shown here, and what toll old age takes, and what the role of young men in our parents growing old should be. A lot of lessons I learned from this book. So let's get into that. To set some context, we have Manolin, who is the young boy who helps this old fisherman Santiago. Here's a quick quote about responsibilities of the young towards the old and how utterly lonely old people are when they have no one to talk to after having lived a full life. Quote, then he said aloud, I wish I had the boy to help me and to see this. No one should be alone in their old age, he thought, but it is unavoidable. End quote. You can see how isolation plays a big part in any old person's life, and it's really sad that in we don't have enough support for old age people in our societies today, as opposed to maybe even 50 or 100 years ago. Anyway, the way to deal with this would be, again, one thing that he does here is imaginings. That is more to do with being in the sea, not having any interaction at all with anyone else. So he starts talking to the fishes and nature and the sea, for example. That is one way. The other way to deal with it will be to imagine things happening on land when you get back. So baseball is a big thing for Santiago. So he constantly talks about baseball and DiMaggio and what would have happened in the games. That's one way to keep yourself occupied. And again, it is important, but it's just a coping mechanism, I would assume. I can't say if it's a healthy way to live your life, but if you have no other options, it has to work, I guess. So this was one theme explored in the book. What else do we have? Well, the basic story or the plot lines are just that this old fisherman, Santiago, hasn't had any luck for 84 days, and then he goes out to sea and catches this one big marlin. He spends 2 or even 3 days out to sea doing this, and after this, after catching the marlin, after all the great struggles, The message here being that if you keep at it, if you keep your spirits up, and if you can endure the suffering, you will be rewarded. So that is another one major theme. After doing that, on the way back, his ship, or I mean, I shouldn't call it a ship, it's a skiff, a very small boat on which this huge fish is attached after he kills it with the harpoon. His skiff is attacked by sharks, of course, because, again, deep sea fish, it's dripping blood, so the sharks can see it and smell it, and they attack it and take all the meat away from it. But still, Santiago, although is physically defeated, is still morally in the right place because he realizes that, quote unquote, a man is not made for defeat, and a man can be destroyed but not defeated, meaning that if you yourself have that spirit in you to keep fighting, nothing, no amount of suffering or pain can take that away from you, and you can find some semblance of life, I suppose, is how I saw it. I also wanted to quickly comment on how Santiago sees the marlin. It's important to note that this kind of story, a sailor going deep into sea, is not new. I remember reading The Rime of the Ancient Mariner earlier, and also Moby Dick more famously. It's very interesting how they see their opponents. In this case, the marlin, of course, but then we have the albatross in The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, again, which is the sign of bad omens, and after our sailor kills it, bad things start happening. That is one way to look at it. After something good, bad follows. And then we have Captain Ahab, more famously in Moby Dick, where he sees the whale as an enemy, something that needs to be conquered. He puts all his energies into it. He does not see it as a part of nature at all. The whale is almost an evil that needs to be eradicated. And again, there are a lot of religious subtexts in that book, but it's very interesting how in Old Man and the Sea, the marlin is not shown as an enemy, even though the fish made Santiago suffer by steering the boat off the coast and making him work for his meal, so to say, and then not even giving him that meal, quote unquote, in return, because again, it brought bad luck in terms of sharks that took away all his meat. So Santiago did not gain anything from it except for a stronger resolve, let's say. But still, even after all of this, Santiago refuses to call the marlin an enemy. He always respected it, treated it as a part of nature that deserves respect. It was almost as if the fish was his brother, a companion that gave him some companionship during his lonely times. He is almost sad that he killed the fish, but it is a necessity that he has to do so. And then, after killing the fish, is he happy? No, not at all. He just moves on as if it was something that was bound to happen sooner or later. So he straps the fish to his skiff and rows back. And again, facing all kinds of challenges on the way back as well. And he still does not have any animosity towards the fish. So it's very interesting how he develops this very interesting bond with the fish. Here are some quotes. Quote, "But they were sailing together, lashed side by side, and the old man thought, 'Let him bring me in, if it pleases him. I am only better than him through trickery, and he meant me no harm.'" End quote. Quote, "Perhaps it was a sin to kill the fish. I suppose it was even though I did it to keep me alive and feed many people, but then everything is a sin. Do not think about sin. It is much too late for that, and there are people who are paid to do it. Let them think about it. You were born to be a fisherman, as the fish was born to be a fish. End quote. You can see through these examples that he sees himself as just part of nature. He has to bow down to it, to the weather, to the seas, and there is much acceptance and humility in his behavior as opposed to Captain Ahab. So, great book overall, many learnings, and being one with nature is always a good lesson to take. Do give it a read. Thank you for listening.